Last year, you all asked some great questions about nonprofit board of directors recruiting and managing, and you all have since then asked more great questions about this topic. So in this video, I'm going to answer some more audience questions about the board of directors. Whether you are just starting a nonprofit or growing a nonprofit organization, I really hope that this video helps clarify some things for you about the board of directors and helps you along the way. Welcome back. I'm Amber Melanie Smith. I'm a nonprofit founder and executive director, and I make these videos here on YouTube to help people like you who want to make a difference in the world, whether that's through starting a nonprofit or social enterprise or other strategy. I always hope that you find these videos helpful. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more content like this. And if you're in the process of starting a nonprofit and you need some additional support and learning, check out my website, foundertofulltime.com, where I have a couple of online trainings just for you. And of course, my newsletter that I send out to my changemaker friends here, you can find the link to subscribe to that below this video. I send out tips and resources and sometimes funding opportunities that I come across as well. When you are starting a nonprofit organization, assembling a great board of directors is among one of your many first steps. A great board of directors is going to be like your diehard super team. This is going to be the group of people with the passion for your mission. They're going to be your partners in doing good. They're going to have the skills and connections to hopefully move your mission forward in a productive way. Like I said last year, you all asked some great board questions and I answered them in a video that you can find and check out. And this time I'm going to answer 5 more questions related to the nonprofit board of directors. So let's get into that now. All right, question number 1 is from Gail. Gail asks, how did you transition from founder to executive director? For those of you who have been following my videos for a while, you know that I am the founder of the nonprofit that I am now the executive director of. So this question makes total sense. So a couple thoughts about that, Gail, and anyone else wondering the same thing. The first thing is you need to make sure that your board has buy-in to the idea of you becoming the executive director. So we know that even if you as a founder are also on your board, you can't vote to hire yourself and you can't vote on what your salary would or should be, because that's considered a conflict of interest. So your other board members need to agree that first, your organization needs an executive director, and second, that you should be the one to do it, and then vote to that effect. So let's say you are in the process of doing this. One thing that will really help is to craft a plan showing the numbers. So what is the budget required to hire an executive director at a fair, competitive rate for your geographical region? And accounting for the other costs that come with hiring staff, such as payroll, taxes, any benefits, etc. So you need to know your numbers. You need to create a budget showing what this looks like, and then you need to create a plan showing how your organization is going to get from where you are now, whatever that amount of money in your bank account may be, to how you're going to get to the amount of money needed to hire an executive director. An important part of this is you really want to demonstrate how having a full-time executive director is really going to amplify the impact for your organization and accelerate its growth. Once I was able to start putting in full-time hours for my organization, our budget tripled within a couple of years by the simple fact that when you invest more time, you get bigger results. So that additional budget allowed us, of course, to reach and help more people. Outlining the ultimate impact on your mission is critical here. You're going to want to make sure your board understands that, but also that you have developed a fundraising message that will help you raise the money needed to get to the point where you can hire the full-time executive director. That fundraising message is going to need to include that impact. Something like, if we raise X, we can hire a full-time executive director, which will in turn allow us to serve 3 times the number of people we can serve right now. So at this point in your approach, hopefully you have board buy-in for the idea, you know the budget numbers you need to hit in order to make it a reality. And by the way, to clarify, it's not like you have to have the entire executive director's annual salary in the bank account before you can hire the executive director. You should have at least a couple of months of salary in there because the person's gonna need lead time to raise the money for after that period of time. The longer the runway, the better, but you don't have to have the entire year first. So you have your board buy-in, you have your budget, you have some fundraising message that explains how having a full-time person at the helm is really going to transform the impact that the organization can make on the community. Now you want to start having some internal conversations with your existing donors and supporters. Say, hey, this is our goal. If we can get to this point and hire full-time staff, look at all the good we're going to be able to accomplish. Is there a chance you'd be willing to contribute to making this goal a reality? And you would be surprised, the right donors who are really passionate about your mission will have no problem supporting the capacity needs of your organization. So that is a kind of super quick high-level overview of how one might go from a founder to a full-time executive director. I go into some of these details a lot in several other videos, so be sure to check those out too. Okay, question number 2 is from William. William asks, what if a candidate for your board of directors has their own nonprofit organization or serves on another board? Should you bring them on board? What would you ask them in the board interview? Okay, so there are no rules against having board members on your nonprofit who are also serving on the board of other nonprofits. I've had board members for whom this is the case. Many other nonprofits have people on their board who work or are on the boards of other nonprofits. There's no rule against it. I think in this case, you can certainly bring them on, but I would be very, very clear about the delineation between the two. So a couple of questions I would ask in an interview for this board candidate would include about their time commitment. One, are they sure that they can commit the time needed to serving on the boards of both organizations? Because serving on a board is usually a significant time commitment. So really understanding the time commitment with their other organization and the time commitment for your organization. Second, I would be clear on what the mission of the other nonprofit is. I would try to understand if it's a very different mission, if that might be conducive to not having very many opportunities where you'd be competing for funds with that other organization. That might be helpful or at least cleaner. So basically, what are the potential conflicts of interest that could arise? Are there opportunities for these two organizations to be complementary to one another? Maybe one of them provides clothing for kids and another one provides housing for families. Those two organizations could be quite complementary to one another. The people who are helping families with housing, those families might also need clothes for kids. So what are the opportunities to work together as well? These are the types of questions I would ask. You're really not supposed to share donor contact information outside of your organization. So making sure that the potential board candidate understands that they can't just go into your donor database and share that with the other organization. That would be considered a privacy violation for the donors. So being very clear on those expectations before you bring that person on board. But it can be very helpful to have another nonprofit perspective on board too. Okay, let's get into question number 3 now. This is from username Prez76. Thanks, Prez. The question is, can players or team members of our sports league be board members, or is it ideal to find outside individuals to take on the board roles? So I can kind of see both sides of this potential question here. On the one hand, you want someone who gets your mission. So the players, they understand the sport, they understand how it all works. That's a positive. But you also want to make sure that in that situation, your board members are going to be able to make neutral, business-minded decisions. And also, depending on the structure of the organization, if a player is also a board member, they couldn't vote on a policy or a situation or hiring a vendor or anything in a way that affects them personally as a player, because that would be considered a conflict of interest. So I can kind of see both sides. You might want to consider having a mixture of both. Maybe a couple of people who have a passion for the sport but are not necessarily on the team, but who come with other experience like fundraising experience, marketing experience, etc. All right, for this next question from Noel or Noel, not sure which way you pronounce that, but the question is basically, would you say that there's a concern about how the board of directors might impact your vision as a founder? So here's what I'll say to that. Potentially, I'm sure I had a vision, and I obviously have a vision for the organization that I started. But the thing is that in the United States, at least, you're legally required to have a board of directors, usually a minimum number of board members. And the IRS really wants to grant its nonprofit status label to organizations that are truly run by and represented by people in the community. So it wants to make sure that it's a community-led organization, which is best manifest through having a board of directors elected by people in your community, or elected from people in your community, rather. So you have to have a board to have a nonprofit in the United States. And the second is, when a board is managed really well, they can be incredible assets to furthering the vision. So there's a lot of work that can be done on aligning the vision of the board and the founder and making sure there's really good rapport and that the values that you all hold are aligned, stuff like that. The other side of this is that you have to be careful as founder to be a little flexible and allow your other board members, your leadership, to come in and take some of the ownership of the organization, because when they're able to do that, that's when their real passion for the mission comes out, and when they're going to be the greatest help to support the cause. They're going to be the most excited about raising money for the cause, etc. If you bring in a board member and you say, well, I'm going to bring you in, but you're just a board member on paper and I don't want you to have any power, etc. That's not very motivating for the board person, and they might not feel very excited to go out and raise money for the cause in that case. And you could really use their help as leaders, helping raise money for the cause and supporting other aspects of the organization, especially in its startup phase. At the end of the day, it's all about alignment of values and vision. So you can tackle a bit of this in the recruitment process for the board. How would you design a board that has the skills and the motivation, the excitement for the mission that you need them to have and want them to have, while also keeping the vision intact? In the recruitment process, you outline in writing your values, the vision, the ultimate goals of the organization, and the time requirements and the commitment needed to participate. And all of those things will have the effect of weeding out the people who can't meet that requirement from the very beginning, hopefully leaving you with applicants who are going to be better aligned to your mission. Question number 5, and the last one we're going to tackle in this video, is from Courtney. Do the board meeting minutes need to be displayed publicly on your website, or do you just need to have them? They do not need to be displayed unless your bylaws state that you're going to display them, in which case you need to do whatever your bylaws say. But I think that'd be pretty rare. Yes. So you don't need to display them. You do need to have them, and you need to have them for every meeting, and they need to be accurate, because if you ever get audited by the IRS or undergo an independent audit of your own volition, you will be asked to produce all of the meeting minutes. The most important things are to record the attendance and the votes that occur, any policies that were developed, etc., for that record keeping. All right, I'd love to hear how many of you had same or similar questions to the ones we went over, or has this just made more questions pop into your minds, leave your thoughts in the comments below, and who knows, maybe we'll get enough questions that we'll make another video on this topic. As I mentioned before, if you're looking for resources as nonprofit founders or social enterprise startups, etc., check out my newsletter. It's linked below. I send out regular tips, resources, funding opportunities, etc., and you can opt out anytime. If you need some additional training and support, check out my website, foundertofulltime.com, where I have some online trainings for you. And last thing, I have a group on Facebook called Change the World or Bust, where we have thousands of folks in there from around the world, all talking about how they're making an impact and helping each other out. So come join us there too. That's all I got for you today. I'm Amber Melanie Smith, and I'll see you next time.